Welcome to Rock Your Reinvention. I'm Karen Freeland, your guide to ditching corporate and designing a life you love. If you're ready to shift your mindset, boost your confidence, and finally take action on that dream career or business, you're in the right place. It's your time. Let's rock your reinvention. I am so excited for today's guest, and you're going to hear why in just a minute. But we are joined by Lori Aikman, who is the founder and lead nurse practitioner at Precision Total Health. She has over 12 years of experience in conventional medicine and 4+ years of specialized training in functional medicine. She's passionate about helping you achieve lasting health and well-being, and she is my go-to expert on all things perimenopause. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Lori.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, great to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. You and I have been chatting a lot about perimenopause and all the things plaguing me lately. So I'm excited to share your wisdom with this audience. And let's just hit them right out of the gate. Like, what's one myth about perimenopause that you wish women knew?
You know, I got this question the other day. I was talking to a woman and she's like, if I'm still having a period, am I in can I be in perimenopause? Like, it's really confusing too, of like, if I do have a period, if I don't have a period, how do you know when you're even in perimenopause?
Yes.
And so average age of menopause, when we look, is about 51, but women typically about 3 to 5 years out from that, women can start to have the significant perimenopausal changes where they're noticing things are shifting in their body that seem hormonal. That would be, 45 to 48 years old, you might still notice. You can still be having consistent cycles during that time because it's not until when we have menopause, it's the pausing or cessation of menses or our period. So typically, like if you go to your OBGYN or you go to your doctor and you haven't had a period for a year, then they're going to go, oh, okay, yep, you're officially in menopause. It can be confusing, but it's not really like necessarily an on and off switch. It's more a transition, over time.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful to recognize. And I know I've been having a period still every month, but they're so different than how they ever were before, right? They're like the first day is like Freddy Krueger came to town. I need like super plus.
Right.
And then like it's done a day later, or like it's just sort of a trickle. And it's like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? So it's very different from like when I used to have that typical like 5 to 7, or when I was on birth control and there was nothing.
Right.
Yeah, figuring all that out. But I think it's helpful because I really thought I was in perimenopause probably even like 3 years ago. And I don't know, maybe I really wasn't, or maybe unless I'm going to go through menopause a lot sooner because I'm 45. So it's helpful to have like that average of 51. Like maybe I wasn't really in perimenopause and I was blaming some of my stuff on it. It was a convenient excuse.
Well, and that can be confusing. I see lots of women. I see like reels on, on Instagram. And this woman was like, I went to the doctor to try to have, we decided we want to have one more baby. And she was like 35. And they're like, oh no, you're actually in early menopause. And that's really not very common. Really what I see in my clients is that there can be other things going on in your body that can deplete your sex hormones. So if somebody drew blood and you've got no estrogen, no progesterone, they'd be like, oh yeah, you're in menopause. But it's not, especially in a younger person like that, a woman that's in her 30s, that's a lot less likely. There's more likely that there's another root cause, which is what we like to talk a lot about from the functional medicine side of things, right? There's something else stressing her body that's causing those sex hormones to drop we can't just chalk up to which unfortunately, in a lot of women, it gets chalked up like, oh, you must be in menopause early. And so they get put on bioidenticals or whatever, HRT early, which is not that that's wrong, but it's what's really going on to cause that in the first place. And I think if we can fix that, then we can benefit that woman a whole lot more.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, that root cause. And I love that you're doing functional medicine because we're not just slapping Band-Aids on people, right? Then you're on a million other medications to fix the side effects from the other medications. And it's like so frustrating,
Well, and I think for a lot of women, it can be, even if they're on that HRT, if it's not fixing the root cause, they can still be symptomatic, right? They're like,
Yeah.
well, this is supposed to fix me and I still feel like crap.
Yeah. And HRT, in case anybody doesn't know, is hormone
Yes.
replacement therapy, right?
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. I know we got all the lingo, so I can make sure we
Right.
know it.
Go ahead.
Okay. So now that we got that little myth out of the way, I'd love to hear, how did you start your business, Total Precision Health?
There was one moment at time. I actually, I'd always thought like, gosh, I'd love to work for myself and I always was really interested in wellness. I was a college athlete, just very interested in that side of things. And it just didn't seem like how could I combine being a nurse practitioner with the wellness side of things? And I always wanted to do something like that. And I didn't know about functional medicine until 2019 or so. So I learned about it. I started to train take courses and things. And it was when I was pregnant with my second child, I found out I was having my daughter. And it was something about, not that my son, I think part of me was like, my son will take after my husband. Once I learned I was having a daughter, I just felt like I can't just sit on these dreams. I can't just keep saying, I wish I could do that. I got to do it because I don't want her to look at me. It was like, if I didn't figure my stuff out and go after my dreams, right, I didn't want to like pass on baggage. I was just picturing myself. I want to be an example for her. I don't want to pass on, my baggage to her and have not gone after what I really wanted. So that was kind of the moment, if there was one. And so I just pulled the trigger and started saying, hey, I can help you with your hormones or your gut health. And here we are a couple years later.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's a couple things. First of all, it's kids a lot of times are that trigger, right? It's the impetus to go and do something bigger and greater. And I think it's such a beautiful legacy that you can leave for both your daughter and your son, that like, hey, yeah, mom doesn't have to settle. Mom goes after her dreams. You can go after your dreams too,
Mm-hmm.
And I also love that you just pulled the trigger and you were just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. And Here you are 5-6 years later and you're crushing it. You're still, you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to make that first step and say yes to our dreams. And the rest is going to fall into place.
Which I know is what you work with women on, right? Of like the reinvention, right? It can be scary, but I think it's like that quote of like, it's more painful to stay the same than it is to change.
I love that one because I think that makes it so much easier to change when you really think about that, because it's like, choose your hard. Like it's either going to be painful to stay in the soul sucking job or the situation where you don't get to be around your family or whatever that you don't like. You'll have some knowing, okay, I know I'm miserable. I know what I'm buying into. Or you could try this other path. You may or may not like it. We don't know, but you might as well find out, because if you love it and it's better for you, you'll be missing out.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So good. Such a good reminder. What do you love most about being an entrepreneur?
I do, we've talked about this. I'm in the season of life where I have all my kids are under 5. I have 3 children under 5. So I do like that I have freedom. I've been able to work part-time and still be present for my kids. That's really something so valuable. I would not be like a full stay-at-home mom, I do need my time, but still to be able to be present with them and do activities with them and stuff is huge. And I think, I have the freedom to be like, we're going to do this now. I'm not under somebody else's leadership. And so being able to not just like, oh, I'm my own boss, but like I get to steer the ship, right? I'm like, we're going to do this. Like people need this. We're going to change. We're going to do this now versus, when I was I was working for somebody else, I did not have any control over what I get to work on, what I get to do day to day.
For sure. And I think that's so frustrating. Like, especially as we get older and we're more seasoned in our career, it's like, I've been doing this for 15, 20 years. I know what I'm doing. Just trust me. Let me run with this. Let me implement this idea. And when we keep getting our hands slapped or told no, it's like you lose your steam. It's just
Right.
like, then go hire somebody else to do this. Like, you don't need me if you're just going to dictate to me, this is what you want me to do. If you're not going to let me have any creativity, find
Right.
somebody more junior. You could pay them half my salary and they'll just do whatever you tell them to do. And I think it's interesting because a lot of women do start to reinvent, when they're in their later 30s, 40s, especially in 50s. And that is right when perimenopause and menopause are hitting us. And it sort of becomes this perfect storm. There's all this uncertainty and things that are changing on the outside of us. And then on the inside, it's like a whole disaster zone, right? So I would love to tackle some of the common symptoms with you. And let's start with the brain fog, the forgetfulness, this lack of clarity. Like, what is going on in the body that creates this? And what can we do to try to get our sense of brain back?
Part of that, I think the dysregulation in the hormones, again, sets us up for that fight or flight getting triggered more easily. And what happens kind of when we're in that high stress state, when we're in fight or flight, is our brain chemicals are affected by that. So our levels of dopamine, right, which controls our motivation, but also controls our focus, gets affected. The shifts in, we see a lot of mood changes too from the shifts in estrogen and progesterone. So estrogen specifically affects serotonin. I had a cousin, her main menopausal symptom was depression. And it's just that dip in estrogen. And then progesterone then affects your body's natural Xanax, you could call it. It affects GABA in the body. So not only can it be like the focus, but then the mood really changes too. And kind of that combination together can really set up, a perfect storm where, it's like, I can't remember what I was doing. I'm so irritable, right? Like I'm not myself anymore. A lot of women feeling very emotionally out of control, right? That I think is what a lot of women experience in perimenopause too. It's like, I have this, it's not just like, oh, I'm just down today. It's like, there's a chemical imbalance that feels outside of my control. And it can be very scary too. If it's depression or if it's anxiety, and there's a lot more, separation and divorce during this time of life too. And I just think of how much of it is the woman is just feeling like I'm so out of control, and the guys don't know how to handle it and don't know that it's really like not her fault. And she's not just being, a bitch, if you call it that. Right. So that was kind of a lot.
I had to really explain that to my husband. Like, I know when these things are coming out of my mouth that it's wrong or it's mean or it's nitpicky. And I literally cannot stop myself. I am out of control and I know it, but I don't know how to get myself back in control. And it is the most unsettling feeling because you're just like, this isn't me. Why am I like this? And we were in Miami. Well, we were flying through Miami, but to get to Orlando for a little weekend away. And the airport people were giving me a hard time about closing my bag. And I'm like, I flew here with my bag, not like the extra zipper that expands it, like open. Like it wasn't, nothing was going to spill out. It just was giving it the extra space. And they're like, you can't fly like that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, and I like jam it in the thing. And I'm like, it fits in the thing. I'm like, leave me alone. And I try to go get on the plane and they stop me again and I lose it and I just drop an F-bomb. And the lady's like, ma'am, you will not use that kind of language. I'll use whatever kind of language I want. I mean, this would have been like anybody who loves a good Karen would have like videotaped me, put me on YouTube, and I would have looked like the crazy one. And to an extent I was, but it's like, you're getting pushed these little things that should have been a non-issue. Like, okay, let me just see if I can close the bag. Could have handled more rationally. I just completely lost it, which prompted me to one of the things that prompted me to reach out to you, like, I got to do something because just being out of control and being like, well, there's nothing I can do. Like, this is not sustainable for anyone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I got my progesterone today. I rubbed
There
it
you
in my thighs.
go. Woo, woo, woo. I mean, and it's great. Like I have another family member who it wasn't necessarily perimenopause, but she had some severe stress. There was a lot of things that happened that she had a root cause that really dropped her hormones. Not a person that's normally depressed, right? And she's like, I honestly, there was days where I was like, I could just drive my car off the side of the road and like,
Mm.
to think about people experiencing that. I had a friend in college that ended up taking her life years later. And I just think of, could that have been prevented, right?
Right.
Was there really biochemical change to hear somebody that I'm close to say, who's not a depressed person, who's never, go through a period of that, like I could have just driven off the road and that would have, and the
Yeah.
things, and I would have felt better is what she was kind of feeling in that moment. I just think of being postpartum and, or maybe I was pregnant and like watching a kids movie with my kid and just started bawling, right? It's that uncontrollable
Yeah.
feeling. It's not just women are being dramatic. It's
Yeah.
the, oh my God, I cannot control these emotions. And I feel like I'm not even, I think that's what's so hard is feeling so
Yeah.
out of control. It's not just suck it up and deal with it, right? Kind of changes that we're experiencing.
Yeah. So, like, what do we do? Because, I mean, obviously, from a medical perspective, like you and I talked, and progesterone was a great option. It's a topical solution that I can start
Mhm.
using. I started a supplement, the beef Oregon heart, but like, I imagine this is maybe a time also where we need some counseling or other maybe mindfulness type of support, or I don't know, like, can I drink the mushroom coffee that tells me it's going to give me clarity? Like, what are some of the things that like actually work? And I don't know if you have any that you're like, okay, definitely this is like an old wives' tale. Leave
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Gosh, test, target, transform. I was like, what's the middle T? So what, and just the name of our practice, right? Precision Total Health. What we look at is going, okay, let's see what's actually going on is beneficial. And we kind of can know, okay, you're 45. I'll back up and say this. So what happens if we have normal cycles, we have normal estrogen, progesterone, as we go into perimenopause, what will happen first is progesterone will drop. And so we get that hormone imbalance means, so normally estrogen and progesterone should balance each other out. Well, so when progesterone, I always kind of do this when I'm talking to people on Zoom. So should have estrogen and progesterone. Well, if progesterone does this, we're estrogen dominant, or we have more estrogen than progesterone. So there's
Yeah. So
kind
if
of
it
different.
drops, just for people who aren't like watching,
Yeah,
right?
sorry.
Like,
Yeah. So I've got my
mhm.
hands even, then we got progesterone goes down. Okay, well, we've got more, that balance of estrogen and progesterone are off. And so there's symptoms that accompany that, like you were saying, those super heavy cycles. That's one of the things
Mhm.
progesterone does in the uterus, like in our cycle, is estrogen makes, if we think about our uterus, just from a procreation standpoint, right? Estrogen makes our uterus thicken to get ready to receive an embryo if we were to get pregnant. Progesterone helps that uterus from getting too thick. So if we have a lot of estrogen and not enough progesterone, we can have really heavy bleeding because we didn't have that balance of progesterone balancing it out. So you can see really heavy bleeding. You can see, just painful periods, heavy periods, clotting. This is when women, it's a little nuanced. There's also how your body processes that estrogen, but you can see uterine fibroid with it too.
Mm.
So women, that's something sometimes they'll look for, let's do an ultrasound and just make sure everything's okay in your uterus with you having these really heavy, cycles. But that's something, okay, we know kind of that happens. Well, then as we get closer to menopause, so progesterone is decreasing, estrogen unfortunately kind of goes up and down before it just goes down. And then when we're in menopause and so we stop cycling again for that year, but it's your ovaries are not producing as much, you're not ovulating each month. And so estrogen and progesterone both are very low. So
Mhm.
we can kind of look at those talked it, like you and I had a conversation, some of the things you were telling me, I'm like, I think it's your progesterone based on how those hormones work. So it's even just, it can be testing with looking, having a conversation with somebody and talking about your symptoms and getting an idea of what might be going on in your body. If you've always had a lot of problems, like, oh, they told me I had PCOS or I have endometriosis or things like that, that's a time where digging a little deeper and actually testing, looking at more advanced tests at your hormones can be really beneficial, because part of that is it's not just, oh, your hormones are going down, it's what your body is doing with those hormones. So that's my ladies. I had a woman who they thought she had endometriosis. She literally ended up in the hospital with such heavy bleeding. So they go in and do a laparoscopic surgery. They don't find any endometriosis. So she has a surgery she doesn't need. She's like, it cost me $6,000. We did a $400 test, and we were able to see, oh, your body just doesn't process your estrogen right. We were able to test target. We were able to target her estrogen with specific supplements to help shift the estrogen metabolism appropriately. And now she's like, my cycles are like, she would wake up during the night. Like she couldn't even sleep through the night. Her periods were so painful and heavy. She was like, I don't have severe anemia anymore. I don't bleed like, you're saying Freddy Krueger earlier.
Right.
So sometimes it's what the things look like for you, but it could be as simple as, how old are you? Where are we at? What are maybe some simple shifts that we can do? And really, if we look at it, it's okay, we want to try to maintain that balance of estrogen and progesterone. So if you're earlier menopause and you're experiencing irritability, trouble sleeping can be estrogen or progesterone, but palpitations even can be a low progesterone thing.
Oh, I have those.
Yeah, that can be from the progesterone dropping too.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay. See, and this is why you have to talk to somebody who is a professional, because, I took to the Facebook groups and was like, hey, anybody have any tips for anger management? Because I really was focused on those mood swings. But then all these people kept coming back and saying, well, that's because your estrogen dropped. That's because your estrogen dropped, and this is probably because for them, maybe theirs did. Yeah. And maybe this is what they've learned. Right. But again, without knowing my specific situation and my specific, because I posted anonymously, but like my specific age and whatever, is like they're just regurgitating what they hear. Right. So it's really important to talk to somebody who really knows what's going on.
Right. Yeah. And there may be a case for, hey, let's just do a blood test, to get a quick check of what estrogen and progesterone look like, in your cycle.
Sure.
But yeah, I would say for the most part, it's just I love a topical progesterone, or even oral. You can take progesterone capsules. It's just you can get topical progesterone over the counter. So that's something you could even this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, of course, first, but you can purchase progesterone on your own and try that and see if that helps you. A lot of times what you'll get, you go to your primary or you go to your OBGYN, they'll just say, let's just put you on birth control.
Yeah.
Which I personally don't love, just because there's some really beneficial things of having a normal cycle. And so I'm like, well, can we just help your cycle out so that they're just not so bad? Let's get if your progesterone's low, let's just get your progesterone back up until you're through. And then maybe as you get a little closer to menopause, estrogen drops, maybe we add both in. We do estrogen and progesterone, because there's some really great benefits for bone health, for heart health, cancer protection, even when you do use hormone replacement therapy. Vaginal dryness, like things like that, can be really troublesome. So you just weighing your benefits and your risks on using hormone replacement therapy.
And I have a totally different feel on birth control now than I did when I was younger. Yeah. And I really don't want to put that in my body. And my OB tried to recommend that. Yeah. And I did it for like a month and my sex drive tanked. Right. And I have a pretty high sex drive. Right. So for me, I was like, this is not like, this is bad. Like I was so apathetic about it. Like I had no interest. And usually he's like, hitting me like, get off of me, Karen. Like, you know what I mean? And I was just like, we could go a month. I was like, I'm good. And I was like, this is just not normal. So I didn't like it at all. I just was like, I have to go off.
Yeah. There's higher incidence of depression when women are on birth control. But I mean, we see worse depression, decreased sex drive when women are on birth control. It can, for the right person and the right use, if you're like, I absolutely can't get pregnant, you need it for the contraception. I mean, you have to decide what's best for you, but
Yeah.
they're not as benign, I think, as we were believed to think they were, especially years ago.
For sure. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. Is there anything else that you recommend for the woman who has big goals? She knows she wants to change, pivot in her life, but feels like perimenopause is just wreaking havoc right now.
Right. Yeah. I know I have migraines here and there. And I know on a day when I have a migraine, it's just like I'm just trying to survive. So I can't even think about doing, I'm gonna need to, it's just like I'm just trying to get through the day. But if you're in that perimenopause stage, you're like, you probably feel like I'm just trying to survive right now. It's hard to think I want to go do those things, whatever that big vision is you have for your life. I would say I'm working with somebody who can kind of help you kind of dig a little bit and see what might be going on in your body. Because there really are like sometimes just such easy. I mean, sometimes women, we make a little shift that makes a difference in like as little as a month.
Yeah.
But the lifestyle things that, you hear about really do make a difference. We talk a lot with women. One of the things that we talk a lot about with our ladies is balancing your blood sugar. And you would think, well, what the heck does that have to do? But what we see, we have a group that we run where we have ladies, and we're actually wearing a continuous glucose monitor. And so many women, what was surprising is that so many women actually were having a lot of low blood sugar episodes where I think we're not, we're trying to diet, we're trying to lose weight, and we're not eating enough. We're not eating enough of the right things, which can actually help us to lose weight. So a lot of times people in that group, their goal is to lose weight. And so they're surprised to see like, I need to eat more food. But the thing is when your blood sugar and your insulin are off, if you're having peaks and valleys, it actually affects your hormones, or it actually affects your ovaries and affects your hormone production. So women who are more metabolically healthy, meaning their blood sugar and insulin are in, and I should say what those are in healthy range, we see that they have a better time transition into menopause. Women that have prediabetes, diabetes, things like that actually might have a harder time, more hot flashes, things like that when they go into menopause. And we even see this in our young ladies, like women that are trying to get pregnant. Maybe they're I got pregnant before, but now I can't get pregnant again. And nutrition is just such a foundational piece. But blood sugar and insulin, just quickly, you eat a piece of bread, that gets broken down into carbohydrates and then sugar chemically in your blood. Insulin is a hormone that lets that sugar into the cell so that your body can use it for energy. Something that happens in perimenopause too, yay, is that our insulin stops working as well, partly because of the hormonal changes. And so having a really good nutrition balance in place, like eating well, eating regular balanced meals with plenty of protein really can help with hormone balance again, and that menopausal change. And I think, we hear those things just as a woman who, like, I was born in 84, right? So growing up 90s, 2000s, everything was like, just be skinny, right? And eat less.
Right.
I remember like the fat free. Did you remember like when everything in the grocery store was like fat free? Because fat was the devil,
Right.
So I think it can be hard because we just think, okay, I just need to eat less and exercise more and be thin. And it really can come down to we need to eat plenty of veggies, and we need to eat protein.
The right thing.
Like we need to eat just a good diet, well-rounded diet, and how that can actually affect our hormones.
Yeah. And I've seen the studies that like sugar is like worse than drugs. Like your brain on sugar is like so bad.
Right.
And we don't think about it, right? And we go get our fancy lattes or coffees with all this sugar in it. And then we have like our sugary cereal. And then we, and it's like by the end of we have a bowl of ice cream at night before bed. And like the next thing you know, it's like you have such a high sugar diet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's interesting to hear that.
Yeah. Well, and so in this group, it's interesting the first week, 2 weeks when people are just putting on the monitor, because the first thing we do is we're like, just watch, just see how your body responds. And this one woman, she's in her 60s. really eats gluten-free, has a lot of like food restrictions because of other things, eats really healthy, is active. She went out to dinner, had salmon, sweet potato, and a salad, and her blood sugar went to 189.
Oh my
Which is
gosh.
high, which is like almost diabetes high. Like 200, you'd be like, oh, postprandial 200. Like that's like you're getting close to diabetes criteria, right? And this is a woman who's not obese. She's not overweight. Maybe she has more around the middle than she'd like. So it really comes down to even just how we eat the foods that we're eating, which is really been interesting to see. And it's always interesting for our clients too, to see like, oh, when I ate this at lunch or when I ate this at breakfast, my body responded differently. An easy trick is you just need to eat your protein first and then treat your carbs like dessert. So if you go to dinner and you want to have pasta and chicken, chicken Alfredo or something like that, eat the chicken on the dish first and then eat the pasta, and your blood sugar is going to do way better than if you would have eaten your pasta first and then your chicken, or even ate it together kind of.
Yeah.
Skip the bread basket, all those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of science behind, like I have a talk coming up and it's like, I'm not talking about anything brand new, anything that's all the stuff you've heard. You need to eat more protein. You need to eat your veggies, but I think sometimes understanding why and seeing the data, especially reflected in your body, can be really helpful.
Yeah. We need the why.
Yeah.
Like, it's like when I was a kid and people were like, don't smoke. And it's like, but why?
Yeah.
Or don't date those kind of guys. Like, but why?
Yeah.
Like, I need the why, or else I'm like, I want to do it more. When you tell me not to, like, I want to do that thing even more.
Right.
Not helpful.
Yeah. And I was just thinking of some other practicals. We actually have like population studies now in that perimenopausal period, like 3 to 5 years out from menopause, because of the hormonal changes, basically it again affects our insulin, it affects our muscle mass. Essentially, when they look at it, when women don't even change what they're eating or how they're exercising, like if they're already like a healthy eater and they exercise, what we see is women will lose muscle and gain fat in that perimenopausal stage, that 3 to 5 years, even if they don't change what they were already doing. So if you're like that, sometimes can happen. Like, I'm doing what I always have done. Why is it not working anymore? And it's literally those hormonal changes. And so we just have to change our strategy a little more. So I always tell women 3 things: the blood sugar, insulin, maintaining your muscle mass, trying to keep from gaining that weight. You've got to be building muscle, doing resistance training, which I think there's a lot more conversation about that now. We're not just like doing spin class all the time. So building muscle, keeping that blood sugar balanced, and then actually like lowering, you don't want to be doing as much. Like I came from a CrossFit background. So I was at gym sometimes where it was like a 30, 40 minute grind, like I have women that do, nothing against them, but like these boot camp classes where they're high intensity for an hour straight. It's actually stressing your body more versus if you would lift weights 3-4 days a week, and then you do like 10-minute, even little sprint or hit intervals are going to be better for your body composition. So those are 3 things, you can do. Again, lots of protein, lifting weights, and then just doing some sprint or hit intervals and sprinkled in with your weight training.
So good. Thank you for all your wisdom today. If someone is listening and they're like, I need me some more Lori, I need some help and some support to get that test, that target transform going, where can they reach you?
Right. So just our website is precisiontotalhealth.com. I do a podcast as well, so they can catch episodes on there. We do some little workshops here and there. So get on the email list so we can email you next time we're doing a workshop. But we also have some little resources. We have like little meal plans on our website and little mini courses to kind of get you jump started that are something you could do on your own if you're not quite ready to actually work with somebody. Those are great things to talk a little more in depth of the things we covered today and kind of get you moving in the right direction.
That's awesome. So go to the website, get connected with Lori, and you will be able to get your perimenopause in check so that you can go rock your reinvention. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're inspired to take action by committing to one of the tips or strategies we talked about in today's episode. If you want more accountability and support, I've got your back. Book a complimentary Empowered Exit Strategy call today. Visit KarenFreeland.com to learn more and book your 45-minute session. Until next time, stay fabulous.